Hi, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me. So today what I want to talk about is the latest from Because Sound Matters, their one-step release of KD Lang's absolutely seminal 1992 album, Ingénue. And anyone who hasn't heard of this album, you've probably heard the song Constant Craving, which is by far the biggest sort of single hit on the album, and certainly I used to know this as the album with Constant Craving on it. And what I really wanted to point out before anything else is the whole album is so much more than Constant Craving. I think it's fair to say, I do love Constant Craving as a song, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly far from my favourite song on the album. I mean, side one, Save Me, it's just absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. The Mind of Love, possibly my favourite. Miss Charlene is also absolutely beautiful. Wash Me Clean, So Should It Be. Still Thrives, This Love's first track, side two. Season of Hollow Soul is, again, it's an absolute fantastic song. And then Outside Myself, Tears of Love's Recall, and Constant Craving. So there's 10 songs on here. They're all absolute gems, and Constant Craving might be the most famous one, but it is far from the best in my opinion, even though, you know, like I say, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't like it, but that's, you know, I just want to put this album in context. It's often heralded as a sonic delight, so to speak. The songwriting, the musicianship, the performance, the recording, the mixing, the mastering is absolutely spot on. You may see in other reviews people talk about a little bit of lispiness, and that is evident. It's not awful. It might require you to adjust your turntable if it's not perfectly adjusted. That is actually a relevant point to mention. This being 180 gram vinyl pressing and my original being, I guess, 140 or so. Basically, I have to raise the tone arm height very slightly to get this to track perfectly. And if you don't do that, you will get, particularly on the Mind of Love, the second track, there's some incredibly dynamic sort of peaks of, it's mainly on the vocal you notice it, but it can induce mistracking if everything isn't absolutely bang on, okay? So, you know, if you hear that, twiddle with your tone arm and your cartridge, and you'll probably find you can lessen that to some degree. But it is, you know, the recording is not absolutely 100%, I would say, for that one reason. But we're talking sort of, you know, somewhere between 95 and 99% perfection, which ain't bad in anybody's book, if you ask me. But anyway, let's that's the music. It's kind of a cross between country, kind of show tunes, vaudeville, music hall. It's absolutely wonderful. You've got accordions and violins. It is just. It's funny. It actually puts me in mind of Tom Waits. And also, to a lesser extent, Nick Cave, which some people might find it incredibly odd comparisons. But it is, you know, she's kind of a crooner in the same way that they are, but, you know, definitely not all sort of spit and polish like a Bing Crosby crooner is. It's much more like Tom Waits. I mean, I love Tom Waits, absolutely do, and I love this album as well. They sound entirely different, but if you kind of like both, you might possibly get where I'm coming from. Anyway, let me show you about what you get with this. So first of all, a nice, stiff, numbered outer sleeve. Inside this sleeve, you get a very nice gatefold jacket. And this is thick card. It's beautifully printed. If you look at the way, I don't know if you can see this on camera, If you can see the way that paper sort of slick is pasted over and folded over, it is absolutely made like the very best album covers ever were. It is really, really beautifully put together. And then inside here, we've got the LP and the lyric sheet. I'll just show you that quickly. I'll show you my original in a little while. And basically this lyric sheet is the equivalent of what was the inner sleeve on the original. And then this is a sort of anti-static, non-scratch archival inner, identical to the type used by MoFi or Analog Productions or most high-end audiophile labels. So the record itself, I'm pretty sure this is what MoFi refer to as super vinyl. Impex use it too on their small batch series, and it's a high quality, low noise vinyl, and this does sound supremely good. One other thing about this is, and it even says it here in the run out groove, this is a one-step process, a one-step pressing. And what that means is that when the record is cut onto a lacquer, then plated, and a mould is taken from that, which is the father, and then that a mould is taken from that, which is a mother, and then a mould is taken from that, which is the stamper, and then that is a mould, and that it presses the vinyl. With a one step, what you do is you get the lacquer, you plate it, and then you create a mould from that, which is the father or the convert or whatever you want to call it, and you press from that. I think that's right. You cut 2 layers out. Anyway, the theory is that will give you a higher fidelity record at the end of it. And there are, there's arguments against, but my brain works on kind of logic, and it does make sense that would sound better. The downside, of course, is when your father is worn out, or your convert, or your stamper, whatever you want to call it, you've got to recut the record. Okay? So, that's what you get for your $100 of Because Sound Matters, Katie Lang, Ingénue. Okay? I'm just now going to show you my original, and I want to talk about that just a little bit because it's sort of relevant. This was my reference during the listening. So here you can see this is an EU 1992 original. It was also pressed for vinyl release in South Africa in '92. I don't think it had a vinyl release, sort of a worldwide vinyl release, until I think it must have been 2017 for the 25th anniversary pressing, which I haven't got and I haven't heard, to be perfectly honest. Although I've heard the digital version of that. Now, the original cover isn't gatefold, as you can see here. And here's the original inner with lyrics and the original vinyl on the Sire label, which is a division of Warner Brothers. So that's what I was using to compare it to, alongside, of course, the CD, the original CD, or a stream thereof. Now, if you start by playing the CD, you'll realise very soon, and I'm talking to people here who don't know the record really. If you don't know the record, I would urge you to go out and listen to it. Maybe you don't want to spend $100 straight off, but stream it on Qobuz or Tidal or Spotify, whatever you use. It's just sort of country rock, as I say, sort of melded with a sort of the crooner type of Broadway type of thing. It's just captivating, it's spellbinding, and it is one of the most beautiful sounding records ever recorded. Even with that like tiny little sort of lispiness, which is just evident here and there. So there's no question I'd recommend listening to the album whatsoever. Now, how does the LP, the original LP, compared to a digital version. And I've listened to the original CD version. I've listened to the streamed version of that 2017 remaster. Now, I think it's quite important to say that all of these versions, every single one of these, the CD, the remaster, the vinyl here, the remastered vinyl and digital release in 2017, and this Because Sound Matters all analog cut for 2025, all of them were mastered and cut where appropriate by Chris Bellman at Grundman Mastering. And that's kind of really interesting, first of all, because obviously no one knows this record better than Chris Bellman, okay? Now, just to sort of set the scene, so you play the CD. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful. The flow and ebb and flow, the swing of the music, the space in the soundstage, and you've got this beautiful big flowing bass. And at the other end of the scale, you've got Katie's voice. You've got a sort of a steel guitar that just sort of twangs and floats on the ether, so to speak, and in certain songs you've got accordions and violins. It's got a very sort of French, kind of chanson feel to it. It's absolutely staggeringly beautiful. When you play this original, compared with any of the digital versions for that matter, this is so much richer. There's so much more colour and real satisfying sort of body and musical flow to it, okay? And then you go back to the CD and it just sounds anemic and flat. So bear that in mind if you haven't heard any of these vinyl versions and you're familiar with the CD, they really do sound better, okay? Now, we kind of sort of set the scene there. So what happens when you put this one on? Well, the first thing is the space and the air. And this is right from the word go. The soundstage is just deep and wide and high, and the air is just sweet and clear and absolutely beautiful. And I mentioned the space and the way that bass sort of flows, and the bass has got so much more depth to it, so much more weight, but texture and detail too. So the kind of the underlying sort of flowing rhythms of the songs, it just absolutely captivates and takes you along with it. And the drum beats, the drum hits, again, there's more snap, there's more colour in them. They sound more real, more analog. And again, it just, that whole rhythm section just sort of, I wouldn't say it drives you along, it just flows you along. It's not that kind of driving music. It's absolutely delicious. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the sort of, the accordions, the violins, this, the steel guitar. It is just, it's more airy. It's more floaty and creamy and spacious. Her voice is far more sort of projected. There's quite a lot of places in this where you've got her just singing, beautiful sweet voice she's got, and then it'll sort of go double tracked for a line or two, sort of for a chorus or whatever, and you can hear that very much more clearly on this. And then there's backing vocals, almost like a choir, sort of like kind of just kind of thing going on. And the light and the air and the angelic purity of it, and the cleanliness and the sweetness and creaminess, they're all beautiful things. And it's enhanced, and it's enhanced by quite a margin. So there's no question this is quite notably better than the original vinyl version, okay? In all the ways that makes this album what it is. Frankly, it's beautiful flow, it's creamy layering, the wonderful production, the music, the expression, the emotion, everything is just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful with it. And again, like I say, because most people obviously know this on CD or streaming, and even taking the 92 version against the CDs and streaming versions, which if all you've heard, you'll rightly think sounds beautiful, because this is, as I said right at the start, this is an absolutely staggeringly beautiful piece of work from in every context. I only mention that very, very slight thing about the sort of the just here and there little instances of sibilance, because that is there, and it is there on here on the new Because Sound Matters 2025 one-step version. But it's, again, it is, with my tone arm, which is not adjustable for VTA, and is generally set up, 90% of my record collection plus are sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s records, and most of them through the sort of 60s and 70s were about sort of 150 grams or thereabouts. For the 80s records, to get the absolute best out of them, you probably need to lower the tone arm, the back of the tone arm, the pivot end, very, very, very slightly. And I'm talking like 1/10 of a millimetre or something. It's not much, but it makes an audible difference if you've got a line contact or Shibata or a similar stylus. Makes no odds whatsoever if you've got a spherical stylus. That's kind of something quite important to know. So I have my turntable optimized for the majority of my records, which of course doesn't include 180 gram and 200 gram records. Now, to get the very best of those, I need to just tweak the back end of the tone arm up very, very, very slightly. And, I've mentioned this before, and it is, when you do it, it is like, oh, wow, now that's it's closer to the sound of tape, which again is something that I am into. So it's kind of worth doing, and I'm seriously contemplating getting a new tone arm. I've had tone arms before that you can make this adjustment, but it's, I think with more and more and more heavy vinyl records coming out, the justification for having that facility becomes greater and greater. Unless, of course, you've got a spherical stylus. That's the way around that one. So anyway, I think I've whittled on about turntable and stylus profiles and turntable setup and tone arm setup long enough. But I think that's where the only instances that someone might have a problem with this is that it is more dynamic than the original, and because of that, the likelihood of it tripping up the tracking basically of your turntable, of your cartridge, the stylus in the groove, is increased. Therefore, it requires that little bit more work just to get the best out of it. If you don't, then all you will notice is perhaps just a few instances of sort of like a spit on the beginning of an S. Okay, so overall verdict is it's an absolute beautiful recording, one of the greatest sounding records, one of the most beautiful records ever made. It's a bit like the Tracy Chapman record I reviewed last week. It is absolute pure class, and it's sort of, it makes the best of music as an art form. It is. It's taking that sort of art form of music and making something that's wholly good on every level. It inspires your mind, it inspires your soul, and the wonderful creamy flowingness inspires your body to relax and swing and flow too. It's absolutely beautiful. 100% recommended. 100% recommended. But if you can't afford $100, maybe look up a secondhand original, because it's not as good, but it's still that same album. And I don't know how much you could pick one of these up for now. I really don't. But if you can't afford one of these, get the CD. you know, that's going to cost you, you know, what, £10, $10, something like that. And if you can't afford that, then just stream it. It's, you know, it's essential stuff. It's good for the soul. Katie Lang, Ingénue, absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Okay, on that note, I'll say thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye now. Bye.